Welcome one and all to the Stock Up Podcast YouTube channel. It is Strixhaven release day, and I'm going to be running through some builds. Okay, I'm going to build some new decks. Already I've got a request to build with Hardened Academic. So this is red-white for a 2/1 flying haste. Discard a card. This creature gains lifelink until end of turn. And whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So right away, there's a ton of synergies with this card. The ungated discard a card, this creature gains lifelink until end of turn is really powerful. We've seen decks in the past use ungated discard for good effect. Mostly, you get things into your yard or you abuse things like Monument to Endurance. The lifelink is, it's an effect. It's a nice little buffer to your life total. I'm going to be building a 3-color deck today, I think. So inevitably, probably going to take some pain from our lands. The lifelink can help us there. And then, this last ability, whenever something leaves, put a counter on something, nice little aggressive creature. So I've laid out the first sort of synergy pieces that I'm considering, and this is pretty much what I'm looking to build around. I haven't built this deck yet. I'm going to build it with you all. Bloodcast is nice because if you at any point you draw it, you could just discard it to get it into the yard, which means you can just play a land to get it into play. So it essentially, makes the Bloodcast 0 mana, and it gives your creature lifelink. It's great with Monument to Endurance. Ungated discard. We have the red-black deck in Standard for a while that abuse this combination. This card's red-white, so we're going to build the deck a bit differently. But it adds a different angle of attack. One of the things that you're going to tend to do with this card is use your graveyard. And in sideboard games, your opponent will have access to graveyard hate. So having a way to sidestep that is nice. It's what another thing that Monument to Endurance will do. And then Zombify is another obvious synergy, right? You discard a big fatty and Zombify it. So not sure I'm going to include all these things, but I think I'm going to try if we have the room. So the first thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to just type in discard. I've got things not in my collections selected, and then the 3 colors I want. And the idea is that I'm going to need some discard outlets for when I don't draw Hardened Academic or when I draw it and my opponent removes it. So my other options are going to be, I'm going to look for repeatable discard here. Oh, you know what? I might play this card now that I'm looking at it. We'll keep that in mind for a second. Iron Shield Elf. This is another ungated one. Pretty likely to play 4 of those. What else? Charming Scoundrel can discard, but only once. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well play Fear of Missing Out. If I'm going to be discarding a lot of cards, I could consider Marauding Mako. This, in my mind, is going to be dependent on the mana base, if it can handle this, because we're going to be playing 3 colors. So we'll work on the mana base here in a second, once I get some more of the cards in the deck. Fear of Missing Out, just a strong card in general. Works well with Monument and all this discard stuff. That's pretty likely. I could play things that discard a lot of cards, like this Brass's Tunnel Grinder, but I wanted this to be a low curve deck for the most part. Casey Jones is potentially pretty nice. Might try that one. It's just actually a pretty strong card if you can build around it. What else? Yeah, not super interested in these more expensive things. Maybe Tersa, right? It's a haste creature. It's kind of on theme. Yeah, certainly anything that costs 4 mana. Carnosaur is interesting because you could discard it to itself to trigger Monument, and then you could also Zombify it for a decent effect, so that's potentially good. The reason I'm considering Thoughtstalker Warlock is for the reanimation package, and I'll show you what I mean about that in a second. I'm not really trying to, target myself and have it discarded, although I can't even do that. So obviously there's some good options in blue, but we're looking at Mardu. This card's interesting. So Kivney Orbweaver. This is a Through the Omen Pass card, so it's going to be a different card in paper. I can't remember exactly what it is, but basically this card is both a discard payoff and a discard enabler. So you can play it like a Fear of Missing Out to discard something one time, or you can discard it and pay Mayhem and get it back into play. So it is legendary, but I might try 2 copies of that. This is the same deal. This Ruzik. Both an enabler and also has Mayhem itself. Again, legendary and more expensive. Maybe just one of those. It's funny, we're already kind of having a lot of options here, which is good. Let's just do mill 4 cards. No. And this has to attack to discard, so that's not great. Pursue the Past. Not quite assertive enough for our deck, I don't think. Joshua. Yeah, I like Joshua. So maybe, but I have a feeling Tersa's probably better. And then, yeah, I don't want any of this stuff. There is Cool But Rude. That's a card from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that people play in this deck sometimes, or in the red-black version of this deck. But I actually just don't think this card's good. Having played against it enough by now and kind of seen its results in paper, I just don't think it's that strong. I'm going to play with Monument instead, essentially. Yeah, so this is good for the discard stuff. If I am going to play a Zombify package, I have to consider which big creatures I'd want to play. Carnosaur kind of fits, but I might want to play something else. In theory, I could play anything of any color, as long as it's expensive and good to get into play, right? Because I could discard it. I don't have to cast it. So I'm going to look at just rare mythic rares because, you know, for big boom booms like this, you want the best of the best. And let's look at, sure, we'll look at 5 through 7, and we want creatures. Okay, so Overlord of the Mistmoors is one I've used in the past because it's good to reanimate, and then you could always cast it on turn 4. That being said, it is double white. Our mana might not be able to support that, but it will have some white mana, so even if it's not like a consistent thing we can do, it's certainly something we could plausibly do. Summon Knights in the Round. This is like, you know, just a really big finisher, obviously, that you're never casting, which may be something we want, maybe not. This, no, it only really works against people with creatures in play. Again, if it was going to be an uncastable card, it would have to be like insanely strong. I don't think any of the blue things fit that. Overlord of the Balmerk's interesting, mostly because it's like halfway decent to reanimate, and then also can be an enabler for our deck. It can mill reanimation, mill bloodcast. So potentially might be pulling ourselves in too many directions with something like that, though. Summon Primal Odin's kind of nice. You know, it's a pretty castable reanimation. Armagon. Again, if it's going to be uncastable, like an 8-drop, I'd rather just have, like, Valgavoth, I think. Maybe Arden. I mean, Arden's really strong. I could see that. Red. What do you do? No, we don't want you. Overlord of the Boiler Bridges. Yeah, I mean, that seems like kind of reasonable. It's kind of like Overlord of the Mistmoors, but white. Mistmoors is a little better, but this is more castable in our deck. Green. Nothing really that appealing. Vault Tyrant's probably the most appealing one. But I think I'd rather have Valgavoth in terms of uncastable things. What's this do? No. Ralph and Mikey. No, this doesn't work because it could possibly just be like a 7/7 plus a, you know, crappy 2-drop. Yeah, this is probably it. These are kind of our options. I could do Progenitus. I don't think that's as good as some of these other things. Bahamut. Yeah, Bahamut's reasonable. So besides Zombify, there's a couple options for reanimation, particularly in gold here. Rite of the Moth. Basically Zombify, but harder to cast, but has flashback. You know, flashback's kind of nice, right? Because we could discard it to something to get benefit for Monument or whatever, and then also have it in the graveyard to reanimate something later. So that's pretty tempting. Again, hard to cast. And then there's Karai. This was the card I like with Thoughtstalker Warlock. So Karai is a reanimation, but you have to ninjutsu, essentially. You have to sneak it in. You know, Iron Shield Elf is not going to be blocked a lot of the time because you could always make it indestructible. This has Flying and Haste, and we can play some other cards. This has Menace, and this has Menace as an example. And this card also, by the way, incentivizes you to make it so creatures get through, like the cards I just mentioned, because you could play it, have them discard something, clear the way, and then it has Menace, and it can get in, and you can do Karai on turn 4. So, yeah, that would be cool. So typically when I'm building decks, I will have already built the mana base by now, but with this deck, I'm not sure the spells I'm going to use. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to need double white, basically, double black. Probably going to need double black, because I do want to be able to cast Bloodcast some of the time, and needing black early is similar to wanting double black in terms of building your mana base. It makes me lean away from something like Overlord of the Mistmoors, and actually towards Rite of the Moth, because the double white is on the flashback here, and that's when you have 6 mana. So I think I could probably do Rite of the Moth instead of Zombify. And it looks like essentially my deck is red, black, splash, white, even though I have a little bit of white early. Just going to be kind of what it is. So yeah, let's work on the mana base. We'll have a better idea of what we can do, basically, like what's available to us realistically. And we'll go from there. I'm going to cut this for now to make some space. So red, black, white. So, you know, when you're playing standard, typically speaking, the best dual lands are shock lands. So we're going to have some number of those for sure. The surveil lands are decent because I could, you know, I could surveil a flashback card or a big fatty into my graveyard, so that's nice. In Secrets of Strixhaven, we do have access to another type of land, which is the quote-unquote slow lands. These are lands that come into play tapped if you have 2 or more other lands. So if it's your 3rd land, it comes into play untapped. These don't work well with the Verges in a 3-color deck, because if you play a lot of these and you play a lot of Verges, then your Verges aren't on. So if the Verges work out well, you want to just mostly ignore these. Like, for instance, Bleachbone Verge works pretty well when you're splashing white, because early on it's a black land, and then once you get a Planeswalker Swamp into play, then it's a white-black land. And Shattered Sanctum also typically makes good for a splash, because you don't often need your splash in the first 3 turns. But in this case, actually, we have Hardened Academic, and this will never cast Hardened Academic on turn 2. Whereas Bleachbone Verge, if you had this and a Sacred Foundry, you could cast the Academic on turn 2. So that's pretty relevant. Realistically, we're going to want some starting towns. Just a 3-color deck that needs to get online quickly. This is kind of exactly where you want starting town. What else? I'm essentially a red-black deck. I could consider the other Verges. The red-black Verge is black first, I believe. Let me find it. Yeah, but I also need red early, so this isn't particularly useful. The red-white Verge is white first, so I don't want that. I might play like Blood Crypts and Sacred Foundries, since Sacred Foundry casts this and allows us to cast Hardened Academic off of Bleachbone Verge. In which case I probably don't play Godless Shrine. Yeah, that seems fine. If I'm gonna play a Surveil land, like on turn 1, say, I probably want that to be the red-black one. So red-black Theater. Alright, a Blood Crypt lets me cast Academic on turn 2 with Verge 2. Yeah, so this works out pretty nicely. Might just play 4 of these since Surveil's pretty nice. Then, yeah, the only slow land... we have access to the red-white slow land also, but I don't think I want white slow lands, because I have a white 2-drop. And I don't want the Sun Billow Verge, because it's white first. I could have the black-red Verge, but I probably have enough black-red duels as it is. How many lands is this? 15. Yeah, and if I played 4 starting town, that's 22 land. And then, by the time I add a couple basics, it's going to be plenty of lands. You do want basics in your deck in this format, because people are going to play with a road. And do I want a plains? Probably can fetch it with a road if someone erodes me. And then also, this is only 12 white sources. I'd probably want something more like 13, 14, something like that. So I'm definitely going to include at least a plains. It's important to pick some pretty lands that fit your deck. Let's see. These fit nicely, I think. We'll go with those. Plains, Swamp, Mountain. Okay, how many lands is this? This is 23. Probably want 25. I don't have any utility lands. That might just be the cost of doing business. I'm not sure what utility land I could even have. I could have a creature land, probably. Like they come into tapped creature lands. The problem with that is they don't work well with my Verge, and I've already got 4 theaters, so I'd have to cut into the theaters. Could do that, right? I could cut red-black theater for red-black creature land. If I did that, then my Verge would have how many things it turned out on? 4, 8, 11, and 12, 13. That's not bad. And honestly, starting town doesn't turn the Verge on, but since it gives you all 3 colors, if you draw this with Verge, you can cast most of the things you want, although not Academic, right? Because this will be swamps. Might roll with no creature lands for now. And maybe I play 2 mountain, 2 swamp. Let me count my colored sources. So for white, this gives me 4, 8, 12, 13. I kind of want another white. All right, so we want another white. For red, we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 18 red. That's good. For black, we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 18 black. So how do I fit another white? This is 25 lands. It's a little odd because between black and red, I don't even know what to cut. They're both very important. I could not cut any, and I could just cut a basic for a duel of some sort. That's probably what I should do. So let me look at the red, white, and black-white duels again. So for black-white, my options are a tapped land, a Godless Shrine. Should probably just be a Godless Shrine. Thing with that is it's a lot of pain lands. So I already have 8 plus 4 starting town. I'd play like a Concealed Courtyard. Then I'd have kind of a lot of tap lands going into the late game. And I do have some expensive cards, so I don't love that. I guess I don't love the slow lands for white, but maybe I play one. Maybe that's acceptable. I definitely don't want the red-white. Well, maybe one red-white Verge is okay. I have a lot of basics and stuff. You know, I've got 12, 17. Yeah, I think I can get away with one red-white Verge. Yeah. Means if I draw a starting town, at least I can play an academic. The other consideration is I'm going to look at these colorless lands and see if I'm forgetting anything. Cavern of Souls. I mean, my creatures are all over the place, so that's not going to work. Really seeing anything? Oh, there is a land that comes out of your graveyard, isn't there? What is that? It has Mayhem. Oh, it's a Grixis land, and it costs you 2 life. But you could discard it on turn 2 with, say, Hardened Academic to play it. I'll give one of those a try. Just one, I think. Cut a theater for it. Yeah. Okay, so that's our mana. So, we're, you know, double white's not really a thing, but double black and double red should be okay. And we don't have utility lands, so we want to make sure we have lots of mana sinks and that sort of thing. Interestingly, this is 60 cards, but I want to play 4 monuments as an example. So, yeah, this is a 3 mana card. These are all 2 mana cards. I kind of want to play 4 Bloodghast. Don't necessarily need this many FOMOs. Why do I want Overlord? It just kind of fits nicely. Something to reanimate. You know, I don't have any interaction in my deck yet. Probably going to need interaction. What interaction do I want? Certainly I could play Bitter Triumph since that's on plan. Discarding, I could maybe even get away with 4 of them, to be honest. And then what? Burst Lightning or Seam Rip as like 1 mana cards. Seems reasonable. I'm not going to be able to do Seam Rip very often. I've got Secret Foundry, Sunbill Verge starting town, so it's not too crazy. 72 cards. So I kind of looking like we might be trying to do too many things here. Probably don't need all these 2 mana plays. I like the Warlock, but maybe we don't need it. How reliable is Karai? I've got like 10 2-drops that are pretty good at getting through. And then the Warlocks. Maybe I cut like some of the Boom Booms. Which one's the best ones? Valgavoth. Valgavoth and Bahamut aren't very good against control decks. Bahamut especially, probably cut that one. You know, Valgavoth would be good against a control deck if their only way to remove it is a spot removal spell. But if they have a Day of Judgment, right? Summons a Night Around is really good against that. Arden's decent against that. They all have their benefits. I'm not sure which one's better. This might be the case where like I give them all a try and just see which one's best. Ride of the Moth. Cry is also kind of nice because you could just play it as a 3-man 3/3. That gets some value. Casey Jones, double red. Maybe I just cut it because it's double red. Pretty nice in the deck though. It works well with Ride of the Moth because like it doesn't matter what you discard in a sense. Like you're happy if you discard the Fatty or the Ride of the Moth because it does flashback. Yeah, Overlord and Trumposaur are still kind of interesting to me. Maybe this one's the worst. I've got some cheap card. Like if I hit a Bloodghast of a Discover 5, it's not even that good. All right, we'll cut that. Oh, it is good with Monument though. Yeah, I just want to play too many cards. Let's cut Joshua. How much do I like Black Overlord? It's not a very, it doesn't interact with Monument at all. How does Mayhem work? Mayhem only works with discards. So this really only works with like the reanimate side of things. Yeah, what if I cut that? What if I just play cards that kind of work with both aspects of the deck? Like Karai is a good example where it could reanimate, but it could also just be played on turn 3 and get back some of the cards you discarded. Ride of the Moth can be discarded and then has flashback. Things like that. Still have way too many cards. All right, let's cut Fear of Missing Out. Keep the Orb Weaver. Is this too much interaction, maybe? 7 interaction spells. 8, 9. I've got too many 3s, right? I gotta cut some of these 3s. Cut Casey Jones. How much do I like Ruzik? So 5, 4. Keep discard, make a treasure. I mean, it's pretty nice. Something's gotta give. 3 fatties too many. Kind of like the fatties, but I've also got these fatties, so maybe I can cut one of these. Let's cut the summon. Cut land. My curve is decently low, but I could always discard extra lands, whereas if I don't have enough lands, I can't get things into play. Maybe Rite of the Moth is bad because I'm never going to want to get up to 6 mana, but I have Carnosaur and Boiler Rigs in my deck, so getting up to 6 mana is not bad. Thought Stalker Warlock. It's really nice with Karai. It's interaction. I think I want to keep it. Maybe I can cut some of this. Seam Rip. All right, we'll leave Seam Rip for the sideboard. How about that? 8, Yeah, cut a Bitter Triumph. Maybe we can cut one land. I don't know. It seems a little greedy to cut a land. I have Tersa to discard lands too. I'm going to cut Ruzik, or this gives me 6 fatties. I might discard a Bloodghast, or get rid of a Bloodghast so I don't get flooded on them. You can always just discard them though. But like in instances where you don't have a discard outlet, they're pretty bad. Yeah, just have it as like an ancillary part of the deck. Now my curve's a little too high. Got too many 3s. Monument, Karai. All right, let's cut Tersa. Add one of these back. Discard a card if you do put a counter. Let's add Fear Missing Out back. Or maybe just more Bitter Triumphs to be more realistic. Yeah. Okay, this seems reasonable. So I've got 4, 8, 9, 10. I don't really count Bloodghast. 15. I've got 15 cards that cost less than 3. It's not a lot. Could cut Thoughtstalker. Cut a Karai. And then probably one of these fatties. It's only 4 things now. Probably could always get back something smaller. It's not the end of the world for these. And Arden's a little bit more unplanned. Maybe go back to 4 Bloodghast and go back to Fear of Missing Out. It's possible I should just play more of this card because it has Menace. The legendary thing does matter though. It's got Mayhem. Yeah, let's do like this. Okay, this seems reasonable. Oh, you know, the card I'm forgetting though is Mako. How good am I at making red mana on turn 1? Got 13. It's kind of okay. It's good with Monument because you could cycle it. And then there's also Moonshadow, isn't there? Moonshadow. What does this do for me? Moonshadow's kind of good too. Moonshadow has Menace, so it works with Sneak. What if I just play Moonshadow and I do more Karai? I could do less of the Bloodghast thing. More Karai. Pretty good with Carnosaur. More so than Overlord, because Carnosaur could discard on turn 3. I could play a Menace type creature. Most of my creatures, though, can discard a card. But like Moonshadow can't. So like I could play Moonshadow, turn 1, turn 3, Carnosaur, and then Karai back the Carnosaur. Whereas that play is not really available to me with Overlord, although Overlord does 4 damage to any target, so it can deal damage to my opponent. 2 Moonshadow's okay. Maybe I don't worry about the really expensive things. I don't see why I shouldn't have just 1, though, to spike. There's so many opportunities to discard it. Arden's not that good with Karai, because Karai brings it into play after combat. Yeah, so let's go back to Valgavoth, or even maybe Knights of the Round. Knights of the Round doesn't have flying or anything like that. It's a matter of, like, do I want to be better against Stage Judgment or better against, like, Mono Green or something? We'll go with the Valgavoth. Okay, this is a reasonable starting place for a main deck. I'm not super confident in it. I'm going to have to play with it. As for the sideboard, we could do more Thoughtstalker and some Duresses for control decks. Got some Seam Reps, that's nice. We could do like a Braid, some Practical Joke, or maybe we already have Burst Lightning, Seam Rep. Let me look at all the Mayhem cards. Is there like a Mayhem spell? Yeah, there's like Death Flame Burst. What does this do? When it enters, return target your mana value through last. I think I'll play a couple of these. Pretty nice. Against opposing creature decks. Oh, this is funny. This is like a Reanimate that has Mayhem. It's not super necessary though, because Reanimate is enough value on its own. When you cast it, you don't really need to get like a card draw effect on top of it. It's interesting. Yeah, what am I going to do against like Badger Mold deck? Do I want a Sweeper in the sideboard? This one's too slow, I'd say. I could easily have like Pyroclasm, but maybe I just play, what's the new Charm do? Oh, this is a decent sideboard card. It's like a variation of a Braid. Like, yeah, that's pretty reasonable. Yeah, as for the Badger Mold decks, I don't have a ton of good options. I could play Fire Magic, kill 1-drops. I think probably I might just go with Boulder Dash. Not super exciting, but then do I want Graveyard Hate? I should probably play Strategic Betrayal. Yeah, okay. We'll start with this. Thanks everyone for watching. Here's the deck. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm going to play this deck through some matches on the ladder, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, see you next time.